chat and we'll get into the Q&A queue. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Today we are together again. This is UN Youth Delegate Alumni Network, and I am one of its co-founders, Esma Gumberidze. I'm former youth representative to the UN of Georgia. And today we're glad to welcome you back all after over a month of, let's say, a break between our events, our online events. And today we're starting, let's say, a new program, a new initiative. So this is the first event of its kind, because previously we had only youth and diplomacy talks where we were inviting UN ambassadors, so prominent representatives of different countries to the UN. And we had 7 of them last year. But this time we also decided to start UN Careers series, where we will have also the UN staff members to share their personal experience of how they started working for the UN, but also the general patterns, how it's possible to start your career in the UN. So today we have Giorgi Meladze, who is working at the UN headquarters in New York. He is a G5 level professional there. And he works for the Department of Peace Operations. But first of all, before I would give him the floor, I would also like to briefly remind all of you our network history. So this network was formally established in 2021 in spring, but it was formally registered. But before that, in August, September of 2020, there were a series of consultations with Ramis and Lika, who were former UN youth delegates of Georgia and Afghanistan. And through these consultations, they involved a few dozens of former UN youth representatives. And this is how we started as an initiative group. And I will give Ramis a brief couple of minutes to maybe expand just a little bit on the network, and then we'll pass over to Giorgi. So Ramis, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Isma. Good morning, good evening, everyone. My name is Ramis Bakhtiar. I'm a former UN youth representative of Afghanistan. I'm the founder of the global network of former youth delegates to the United Nations. The idea to establish this network basically came to my mind when I was a UN youth representative in 2018 and 19. And during and after our mandate, we realized that there was a lack of opportunity and mechanism for UN youth delegates from different countries to stay connected and active after their mandate. And as a result of that, a huge potential was lost. So together with the UN Youth Representative of Georgia and a group of other UN youth delegates from different countries, we started establishing this network. We have different projects in the network. One of our projects, as Isma mentioned, is Youth in Diplomacy Talks, where we're trying to evolve the traditional practice and definition of public diplomacy by engaging young people who are interested in diplomacy and international affairs in talks with permanent UN representatives. Our 8th Youth in Diplomacy Talks is on the 11th of February. So if you're interested, we can share the link here in chat. Later on, we have different projects. For example, when the crisis in Afghanistan started, we sent an open letter to the UN Secretary General, which was endorsed by 20 organizations and 150 human rights activists from 38 countries. And we called on the protection of youth and children in Afghanistan. When there are issues happening around the world, we work with different young people from different parts of the world. The series that ISMA has initiated is Youth and UN Career. We realized that it's not easy for young people to navigate through the employment process at the UN. So this is a fantastic opportunity. I welcome Mr. Meladze to our talk. And Isma. Back to you.
Thank you, Ramiz. And yes, the level of interest towards this talk really shows the relevance of and interest of young people to be more engaged in the UN processes. So I will pass over to you, Giorgi, but just let's remind everyone that you can ask your questions after the talk, those who are joining us with Zoom, but those who are watching us live on Facebook can also write your questions in the comments. And I will ask Ramiz if it's possible that he can read those comments, and we'll collect the questions at the end of the presentation. So Giorgi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Esma, so much. And thank you, Ramiz, for your introduction and for this opportunity. Yeah, I think I'm not on mute. It's for this opportunity to talk about the recruitment process in the UN. As Ramiz has correctly mentioned, it's not easy to navigate through all this kind of complicated process that is kind of really time consuming, and there are so many details to consider. So yeah, this is kind of a big pleasure and responsibility for me to share, I would say, my limited experience in terms of working within with the UN, as it's been a bit more than a year since I joined the organization, the Department of Peace Operations. But I will try to measure up to your expectations and to expectations of your audience, and to give some kind of better sense and general idea on what the recruitment process looks like in the UN, and also will try to give some leads and useful links that could be kind of interesting to you. So, but before jumping directly into the issue, just for the sake of consistency and nothing more, let us really quickly go over the basic facts about the UN, and I would ask Ramiz, who is kindly helping me with managing this PowerPoint presentation, to go slide 2. So UN established in 1945, representatives of 50 or 51 countries gathering at the United Nations conference in San Francisco and signing and later ratifying the UN Charter, which created the United Nations. So currently there are 193 members in the UN, and there are 6 official languages at the organization, which are Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, Spanish. So 2 of these, English and French, are the working languages, and in order to work for the organization, you should be good either at either English or French, but also knowing additional languages would be a great asset, but it's not required for most of the jobs at the UN, at the Secretariat at least. So the goal of the UN, among many others, has been to maintain international peace and security, developing friendly relations among nations, to protect human rights, promote social progress, uphold international law, and so forth. Next slide, please, Ramiz, where we're going to talk about just few words about the principal organs of the UN, which are the General Assembly, which is the policymaking and representative organ of the UN, the Security Council, with 5 permanent and 10 non-permanent members, with a primary responsibility to maintain international peace and security, the Economic and Social Council, the Trusteeship Council, the International Court of Justice, and the Secretariat. I'm sorry. Which is one of the main bodies carrying out day-to-day work of the UN. So the Secretary General currently, Antonio Gutierrez, is a Chief Administrative Officer of the organization, appointed by the General Assembly on the recommendation of the Security Council for a 5 years term, a renewable term, but it's now his second term. Quickly about the family of organizations of the UN. So just quick technical problem. Keep slipping. About the family of organizations, the United Nations consists of the United Nations Secretariat itself, the funds and programs such as the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, and specialized agencies such as the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, which is UNESCO, or the World Health Organization, World Bank, and etc. So the funds and programs are subsidiary bodies of the General Assembly, while the specialized agencies are independent international organizations that are linked to the United Nations through special agreements and report to the Economic and Social Council and or to the General Assembly. So the Secretariat is comprised of different departments and offices, each of them having a distinct area of action and responsibility, and of course these offices and departments coordinate with each other to ensure cohesion in the UN's program of work. Next slide, please, Ramesh. So within the Secretariat, there are different departments and offices. So Department of Peace Operations, which I joined last year, is one of the kind of leading departments and is in charge with the planning, preparation, management, and direction of UN peacekeeping operations. Currently, there are 12 peacekeeping operations led by the DPO, but let's stop on that. I don't want to overwhelm you with much of the details about the Secretariat and its offices and acronyms. So moving on, kind of more or less HR issues. There are three major core values of the organization. This is integrity, professionalism, and respect for diversity. And then, if we can move to the next slide, you can see that there are 8 core competencies. This is teamwork, client orientation, creativity, commitment to continuous learning, communication, planning and organizing, accountability, and technological awareness. So these are really important competencies to keep in mind when applying for a job opening, and we're gonna touch base why they are important and why should we kind of pay special attention to that. So as you see in this slide, in each job opening, there are a set of competencies the hiring department or office is looking for. In this case, there is professionalism, communication, and client orientation. So then they are kind of under each competency, there is a description what they require, what are the requirements, and it's kind of really detailed. So we're gonna kind of get back to the competencies shortly. About staff categories, there are different categories of staff within, and within each category there are different levels, which reflect kind of increasing levels of responsibilities and requirements. So professional and higher categories that are normally internationally recruited, and they are expected to serve at different duty stations throughout their career with the organization. And it's starting from, it's from P1 to P7 and B1 to D2, which is director level, and each of these kind of level require different set of expertise and skills, education, working experience, and etc. Second comes general service and related categories that are generally recruited locally from the area in which the particular office is located. So the functions in the general service include mostly administrative, secretarial, and clerical, but and that's the service where I work. But from my experience, it's really flexible. So it gives you, it allows you to not to limit yourself by just working and doing the administrative tasks, but you're allowed also to engage in the substantive work of different projects and to gain more skills and experience. Then there is national professional officers, NOPs, which is also professional level, and jobs for national professional officers can only be found in non-headquarters duty stations. So NOPs are nationals of the country in which they are serving, and their functions must have a national context. Let's say functions that require national expertise, experience, knowledge of the national language, culture, institution, and systems. Then field service staff, which staff in the field category that are normally recruited internationally, and they serve in field missions. And when being the field service staff, you're expected to be highly mobile and to serve in different locations throughout your career. And then there come senior appointments. We are not going to talk about them, but just to quickly mention, it's Secretary General, Deputy Secretary General, Under Secretary General, and Assistant Secretary General. So back to the general service. If you are interested in the general service category, first you must apply for an open position advertised on the website, and we're going to talk about the website and what the application process looks like. So once your application is reviewed and you meet the requirements, you will be invited to participate in the global general service test at the duty station to which you have applied. So briefly about the test, which I passed, I guess, 3 years ago. It's a computer-based test assessing the competencies that are kind of core to the functions of the general service like communication, planning, and organizing, and these competencies are assessed through work-relevant scenarios and tasks. So to give you more details, general service test is comprised of 3 sections. This is verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning, and situational judgment. So the verbal reasoning tests candidates' ability to work effectively with written communication, while the numerical reasoning tests ability to work with numerical data, and respectively the situational judgment section tests candidates' ability to work in line with the core values and competencies of the organization. Yeah, so then there are, please, can we move to the next slide, please? So quickly about this staff appointment. There are three types of appointments. The one is temporary appointment, and this is granted for a period of less than 1 year. Then there is a fixed appointment, which may be granted for a period of 1 year or more, up to 5 years at a time. And then the last is continuing appointment, which is an open-ended appointment. So apart from what we kind of said about the different categories, which are professional, general service, staff in field, and NOPs, national professional officers. There are also other kind of ways to start your career in the UN, especially when you are kind of recent graduate and you didn't have a chance to work, and therefore you have kind of rich working experience and background. So there are different opportunities. The first one is Young Professionals Program, which is a recruitment initiative aiming kind of equal representation of all member states in the UN Secretariat. So each year, the UN invites underrepresented member states to participate in the program, and then, of course, it's up to the member state to decide whether they want to participate or not. So there is an entrance examination held once a year in different subjects depending on the needs of the UN, and you need to pass this exam. But please pay attention that this program, as I mentioned, is open to nationals of participating countries, and the list of participating countries varies from year to year. So before applying, you need to check if your country is in this program. Usually the application period opens in June, and you should apply via Inspira. We are going to talk about this application process and Inspira itself shortly. I've also attached links to this presentation, to the videos. There are 2 videos. Yeah, I think I'm back. 2 videos that explain how Inspira works, and it's really useful. So you'll be having opportunity to go more thoroughly through these kind of tutorials. Also, aside from being a national of participating country, there are also requirements, like you need to have, in order to apply for this program, you need to have a first level university degree, and there is an age limit. You should be under 32 or younger in the year of examination, and you should be fluent either English or French. Another opportunity, which would be on the next slide, is Junior Professional Officer Program, GPO. This is another way of joining the UN. This program is managed by the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, recruiting GPOs for the UN Secretariat. So as a GPO, you're recruited under bilateral agreement between the United Nations and donor countries. So the number of positions varies from year to year by donor country. There are major disciplines that are considered by donor countries for the UN GPO program, which is on the next slide. And these are the political science. Ramesh, can we move to the next slide, please? Yes, for better visibility. It's a political science, social science, law, human rights, program management, public administration, economic affairs, environmental affairs, gender affairs. Also, about volunteer program, which is also kind of could be a great opportunity. There are about many UN volunteers working in more than 100 countries, promoting peace and responding to disasters, and empowering communities. And while being UN volunteer is not suggested kind of full-scale career because you're limited to 4 years of service, this could be a great opportunity and great start of your kind of path toward the UN. So there is a link where you can go and see more details about how to become a UN volunteer. And there are also some requirements you need to meet. You need to have university degree or diploma of higher education. And the working languages are English, French, Arabic, Spanish, and etc. And last but not least is an internship. An internship at the UN could be kind of one of the best ways to start your career, as the objective of the internship is to give kind of first-hand impression of the day-to-day working environment of the United Nations. As a team, if you become an intern at the UN as a part of a team, interns are given opportunity to work directly with career professionals, senior management, to attend different conferences and participate in meetings, and expand their kind of networking circle. So it's really good opportunity, and also it became more or less easy to kind of to intern with the UN, because currently, because of these COVID restrictions, UN staff along with the UN interns are working remotely, so you can kind of apply for internship and then do your internship remotely without going to any duty station and work on site. So as an intern, you need to meet different also requirements. You need to be enrolled in a master's or in a PhD program, or be in the final year of a bachelor's program. You should have good command of English or French, and you should not be a child or sibling of a United Nations Secretariat staff member. So the internship program could last for at least 2 months and can be as long as 6 months. And unfortunately, these internships are not paid. So you are in charge. I mean, it's out. You have to cover all of your travel, accommodation, living expenses. So moving on, the application process. Now, the process is the same for all job opening types. You can look for job openings at the United Nations using the search engine, which would be on the next slide. The most of job openings are designed for a specific position in a particular office and duty station. So in order to prepare an application, you must first register in Inspira. And after you have registered, you will fill out and manage your profile, giving some basic information like your name, nationality, contact information, and etc. And then you will be allowed to create the application form, which is the part of your the part of your general application that has information about your education, language skills, present and past jobs. But unfortunately you cannot attach resumes as they are not kind of accepted. So every kind of information should be reflected in your application form. So you can create your application either online or offline, and then you can revise and edit it according to your needs or the requirements of different of the hiring office and department. Can we move to the next slide, Ramesh, please? Yeah, this is how the kind of search engine looks like, where you fill out the different fields, required fields, and you just go ahead and search for a job you're interested in. So let's move on. Inspira itself, which is the online application, online resume, specifically used by the United Nations, where you can articulate your education, competencies, achievements, professional experience. And this application is used to evaluate your eligibility and suitability for the job. I have also attached 2 links, 2 videos, tutorials on how to prepare your application and how to answer the job requirement questions. So about the job requirements, which is on the next slide, it's really important to understand the job requirements before you decide to apply for any particular job. Make sure that you find as much information as possible about the job, and try to apply only to vacancies that are suited to your strengths and aspirations. So completing the job requirement section, which is kind of, there are screening questions, multiple questions, is a mandatory step. And there you're given opportunity to kind of highlight your specific experience, skills, knowledge in relation to the job you're applying for. So your job requirement responses should be coherent and consistent. And this would be kind of the first part of the job application. And the last would be the motivation letter, which is also really, really important. And unfortunately, it only allows you up to, I guess, 200 characters to include information that is not found elsewhere in your application. So in other words, you may wish to use your motivation statement to explain why you are applying for this job, how the position aligns with your overall career goals, how elements of your personal character or experience will support your success in the role, and so forth. So when writing, when kind of answering to these screening questions and writing your motivation letter, you should be really concise to provide small and digestible pieces of information using action verbs, avoiding passive voice sentence constructions. Make the most of your experience, but make sure that you do not exaggerate, because they need to know what you have accomplished and to have an idea what you can do for them, and be specific, so not to kind of leave space for vagueness and obscurity. So then the evaluation part, your application is evaluated in terms of experience, education, and languages the hiring office requires. And in case you meet all the requirements from the hiring office, you will be invited to participate in the assessment exercise and or competency-based interview. So it could be kind of, I mean, there are both, but it could be kind of before competency-based interview, there could be assessment exercise, or the assessment exercise could be after competency-based interview. But if it's determined that you're not eligible and you only meet some of or none of the required criteria for a particular job, you will be informed that your application was unsuccessful for this job opening. And unfortunately, I've received so many such kind of emails informing that I was unsuccessful for the job opening. So quickly about the assessment exercise. The assessment exercise might include a written exam, simulation exercise, or case study. So you will be informed in advance of the time, type, and length of the assessment, and based on the result of the assessment, you'll be kind of shortlisted or not for a competency-based interview, and you will be informed accordingly. So what is the competency-based interview, which comes after or might come before the assessment exercise? But if you're successful, you'll have to have the interview, which is really interesting, and to my mind, is also really kind of different, and it's also fun but stressful. So competency-based interview is a method to assess how successful a candidate will be in a job. So the idea behind this is that past behavior is the best predictor for future behavior. So through the CBI, the panel will try to assess the cultural and behavioral fit with the organization's culture, because it's not always possible to have all potential candidates and employees going through an internship where managers can see how they work. CBI is suggested to give the best prediction for successful future performance. So each UN organization has its own competency framework, the desired behaviors they want to see from their staff, but there are many kind of similarities. So let's move to the next slide, where okay, can we move forward? Yeah, one more. I'm sorry. Yeah, about the possible questions. You probably remember that we kind of talked about the 8 core competencies that are important to pay attention and to remember. So in each and every job opening, you will see that the hiring office requires a different set of competencies, and this could be like professionalism or teamwork and communication, and there will be questions under each competency the panelists will be giving you. So let's say if the hiring office requires, under the job opening, there are competencies like professionalism, then the question would probably look like this. I mean, they probably would ask you to provide an example of an achievement you are proud of, and what did you do there, and why are you proud of it? In terms of teamwork, the question might look like, have you ever been in a situation where you needed to resolve a conflict within your team? And please describe the situation briefly. What did you do to resolve the conflict? What was your role, and what was the result? So please move to the next slide, the interview tips. I would suggest doing some kind of research on competency-based interviews. There are many tutorials and videos on YouTube where there is kind of really comprehensive description of how the competency-based interviews are conducted, and how you should behave during these interviews, and they are really useful. So the questions the panel will be giving you will be kind of based on the so-called Carl principle. This is context, action, result, and learning. So the answers they will be looking forward to receiving from you would be the context. I mean, what was the situation? Action, what did you do in this situation, and what was your role in this situation? Results, how did it kind of, what was the result of the situation, how you managed to solve it? And the last is learning, what did you learn from it? So what was the experience, in other words? Before applying to any job, please review the competencies mentioned in the job opening. So your stories, I mean, your answers to the questions should show your skills in these competency areas. So before an interview, prepare a wide range of brief but real life stories under each competency, where you kind of describe and discuss your strengths and your abilities and your skills and etc. In other words, your answers, your story should be framed according to a situation, action, and result. One more time. What was the situation? What was the environment? What was the problem? What was your role in this situation, and how you managed to solve this problem, and result, what was the result? Were you successful or not? And what you managed to learn, what kind of conclusion you managed to can draw out of this situation. And it's also important to speak on your behalf, to speak in the first person, and to put an emphasis on your role and kind of contribution to solving the problem in the situation. So next slide, please. This is about the probing questions, which are designed to kind of further explore and to get more information on the situation you're on the answers you're telling the panel. So be prepared to get the probing, so-called follow-up questions, because you can kind of perfectly prepare answers and give some general responses, and but the panel is aware of that, so they usually they do give some follow-up questions to get more details and more information on the brief story you're telling them. So be prepared for the probing questions. And the last one is the selection process. If the CBI interview is successful, and generally interview lasts for 30 minutes, and if you are successful in your interview and the panel decides that you're a suitable candidate for the job, then you will be receiving a selection notification, and then you're good to go. Your career in the UN starts and your adventure. So congrats on in that case. And the last slide, where I tried to pull together all the more or less all the necessary links and information on the topics we've covered just now. So about where to search the kind of all the job openings, also the information on internship, information on the two programs, YPP and GPO, which is kind of for young professionals, recent graduates having no kind of prior working experience. Also, these two really important links on how to prepare application and answer questions during interview, that would be really helpful. You also might be interested in a handbook on staff rules, where you can find additional information on appointments, on contracts, and some technical details as well. The link to UN volunteers program, where you'll be provided information about how to apply and what are the kind of what the recruitment process looks like there. And yeah, to do all this, you need Inspira, where you register and where you be creating your application, then applying for different job openings. And lastly, there is my kind of LinkedIn address, where you can reach out to me and I will try to provide you with some, I don't know, recommendations and guidance. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any additional questions. I guess that's mostly it, and I will try to answer some follow-up questions if there are any. But yeah, I'm also wanted to mention that I'm not kind of HR officer or HR professional, so but I'll do my best to give you some responsible leads. Thank you so much. Esma, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Giorgi, for this very comprehensive presentation. And thank you also for being very, very on time. That's super professional. Now I would like to ask if any of our participants have already some questions. If not, I can ask some questions that were written in the registration forms, but maybe the people who were registered want to go ahead and ask them. You can also unmute yourselves and turn on your videos. You don't have to write it only in the chat.
Hi, Isma. We have a couple of questions, but I would suggest that you go first and ask your questions, and then we will take questions from participants.
Okay, so actually there were a few. One was, what is the cooperation between UN and Georgia, a very specific one. And the other one was about how does the UN fund projects that address social ills? So how does the UN essentially fund projects? If you have any information on that.
Okay, to start from the first question, I mean, obviously Georgia is a member of the UN, and there is a kind of, I believe, pretty much tight cooperation with the between the UN and Georgia. But as far as I'm working with the Secretariat, I don't have much information about it. Much I can provide many details about what are kind of specificities and kind of different aspects in terms of cooperation between the United Nations and Georgia. Yeah. As for the second question, could you please repeat it?
How does the UN fund projects that address social ills?
Okay, so probably this is I would say a few words in this regard about the 2030 agenda with 17 sustainable development goals and more than 160 targets, and it targets. This is action plan for people, planet, and prosperity to strengthen universal peace in a larger freedom. So this agenda seeks to eradicate poverty, all its forms, the dimensions, including extreme poverty, which is kind of the global challenge and indispensable requirement for sustainable development. So I don't know how it's happening in different. This is kind of general overview and idea how the UN tackles different problems, and I'm sorry.
Giorgi, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with us. There are some background noises.
Oh, I will ask everyone to please mute yourselves if you are not speaking. Thank you.
So yeah, as I was saying, I'm not sure how it's different in different departments. The projects are funded in different ways, but in DPO, I believe that there is a policy planning team which anticipates according to the different needs and requirements in peacekeeping missions. They kind of identify which projects need to be funded, and then there are negotiations with the stakeholders, writing concept note and kind of bringing to kind of ensure the stakeholders to fund the project. But it's kind of really complicated, and honestly, I'm not 100% ready to talk about how the projects are funded and what the process looks like. But generally, it starts from identifying the problem and then reaching out to different stakeholders, asking them to fund the project.
Thank you, Giorgi, very much. Yes, we actually will have next month, we'll have Georgia's UN resident coordinator speak at our UN careers session. So the questions about funding and decisions on how the funding is being granted, and also the questions about the UN Georgia cooperations probably would be better asked there. We also have a few questions on, but you also already have mentioned this, but still on the education. So and the question is, if you have a law degree, what kind of professional path you can expect in the UN? And the other one is, if you are uneducated but yet aspiring young person, is there any chance of you getting into the UN career, or the formal requirements are decisive?
I don't really. I mean, what you mean by uneducated? You should at least have, I believe, bachelor's degree, and I would say that these formalities are important, but I'm not sure if they are decisive. I mean, you need to meet some basic requirements in terms of education and having it. I mean, different diplomas. I mean, I do know, I do understand that it's really, really formal. But in order to apply for a job, you need to meet some requirements. Otherwise, your candidature will not be considered, and I mean, yeah, you won't be shortlisted. And in terms of, but if you have bachelor's degree, you can apply for general service category, which is, as I mentioned, administrative and secretarial clerical functions. And also these two projects, unfortunately, I guess Georgia has never, or I mean, to my knowledge, has never participated in that project, or maybe I'm mistaken. But anyway, so this GPO and YPP are really great opportunities for young people with kind of not rich working experience to apply and to start their career in the UN. As for legal, the question on kind of legal as a legal profession, I mean, what was the question? It was about legal.
What kind of jobs one can get if he or she has the degree in law?
Degree in law. I mean, every kind. You can search for a job where the requirement will be, I mean, degree in law. You just put the relevant information in a search engine in the relevant field, and there will be kind of number of jobs where the requirement will be degree in a law. So there is pretty much flexibility and a lot of job openings in that field as well. And as I've mentioned, in YPP. And in both in YPP and GPOs, donor countries sponsor the positions in different disciplines, starting from political science and social science, gender, and including law. So law could be suggested as one of the kind of important disciplines that is really often funded. So yeah, there are lots of opportunities for people who have a degree in law.
We have another set of questions. So one is the gender and racial and other, let's say, diversity aspects being taken into consideration in the hiring process? So essentially, it's a question if there are any quotas. Then we have a question about the internship stipend. So apparently there are stipends for internships. And the question is how one can apply for these. I don't know if you, Georgi, have information that. If not, that's okay. We'll think about how to address this very specific questions. And then the other one is about what are the chances of somebody from Georgia to get a job at the UN headquarters?
I mean, everyone's got equal chances. So it's all you need is Inspira application, online resume. You should register there, create your application, create your profile, and apply in different duty stations, and including in New York in headquarters, or maybe it could be kind of in Geneva or Vienna or Nairobi, different, which are kind of other duty stations of the United Nations. In terms of internship, yeah, as I mentioned, unfortunately, within the Secretariat, internship is not paid, so the person should cover its accommodation, travel, and living expenses. But I believe there could be some specialized agencies or funding programs that could kind of where the internships could be paid. But I'm not sure about that. I need to kind of dig around and find if there are any agencies of such kind. But as I mentioned, because of this kind of COVID regulations, and because all of the UN staff are mostly working, as for now, they are working remotely, and most of the interns as well are working remotely. We have a couple of interns who are doing their internships completely remotely from different parts of the world. So it's really easy to apply. And without coming to the duty station and without working on site, without reporting to work, you can do your internship online and kind of use all these benefits that this internship offers. As I mentioned, meeting with professionals and senior management, and attending different meetings, and get really good experience in terms of working with the UN. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, and if I missed anything.
Thank you very much. I finally have just one personal question. Have you seen any people with disabilities as UN staff around you? It's just like from your personal experience.
No, I mean, the problem in my case is that since I joined the UN in the last, 2020, November 2020, I've been mostly working remotely. So it's been just, I guess, 1 month since I started going to the office. I believe it was in last year in November and December. I had a chance to go to the office, but just mostly I've been working remotely, so I haven't had a chance to meet people there, and I haven't seen, and I haven't had a chance to meet people, UN staff with disabilities. But yeah, I'm looking forward to when we get back to normal, and looking forward to better times when we are allowed to go to the office and meet each other in person. So yeah, unfortunately, my experience in this regard is pretty much limited.
Well, thank you very much for these answers. Now, before I'll pass over to Ramis to moderate the Q&A panel, because we have, I'm sure, many questions, I just wanted to say that from our, this talk is very important, once again, to reiterate this, because from what we see is that most of the UN youth delegates do not end up neither in working for the UN or any related agency, nor being in the in the foreign affairs, so in their own ministries of foreign affairs, for example. Ramis, if you can tell us who are people who want to ask the questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Isma. Thank you, Giorgi. It was a very, very useful presentation. Thank you for your time. First question is from Nino Gapazzi. Nino, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ramis, and thank you to Esma and Ramis together for organizing such an event. And thank you, George, for guiding us through the whole recruitment process for the UN career. My question is to George, but it's like a personal question. First one is, how long did it take you, like from applying to the position until you actually went to the, the position, like to New York? I guess you're in New York right now. And the second one was, what is the role of the UN in relocation? Like, were you like assisted by them in this process? They guided you with the visa and etc., or did you have to do everything by yourself? So I strongly believe that the rest of the questions, like technical questions and opportunities and internships, all of them can be found on the websites of the UN and also on the website that George has provided us with. So I'm more interested in the personal experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nino. So yeah, for internship, the UN supports interns who wants to come to the to headquarters and work on site. So it's a G4 visa. And interns who are kind of shortlisted and recruited, then they need to apply for G4 visa, and UN supports in this application process and in the following process as well. As for my experience, it took more than 1 year to go through all these processes. As I mentioned, I had the general service test in May 2019, and when I passed, when you pass this test, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will be invited to an interview or to the assessment test, but it takes some time. You're shortlisted, but your kind of application is still pending. So after a few months, probably it was after 1 year, it was, I believe, summer 2020, either August or July, where I was invited for the assessment test. It was, if I'm not mistaken, a simulation test. They asked me to draft a letter, to organize kind of event, and one more thing I cannot recall. And then I had this, after a month, I was invited to the CBI interview, which was really kind of new experience to me, because I haven't had a kind of experience of having competency-based interviews in my previous jobs. So it took almost more than 1 year from the very start until the very end, when I joined the UN. So it's, in my case, it was a long process, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily the process lasts so long. So it's, I don't know, probably depends, because maybe the problem was this COVID situation, and that people were working remotely and processes were kind of slowed down, etc. There could have been many reasons, but yeah, in my case, it took more than a year. In terms of accommodation, I mean, if the yes, in my case, I didn't need visa, because I'm a permanent resident, so I didn't need their support in kind of getting a visa. But I do believe that they support you, they guide you through the visa process with kind of obtaining process. This is for general stuff, and I'm pretty sure that it's kind of relevant to other categories as well in terms of professional category or NOPs and etc. So yeah, I mean, HR department helps you a lot in all these technical with all these technical issues. Yeah.
Thank you, Giorgi. We have another question from Kristi Milorava. It was in chat, and it was about, so she said she was asking, if I'm not mistaken, that if you don't receive any feedback after the interview within 2-3 months, does that mean that you are not selected, or you still could have a chance? And another question actually from me is, do you have a diplomatic immunity, or do the general staffers usually have it, or who has it generally?
I don't have. I mean, I don't know who. I mean, perhaps senior management, like Secretary General, Under Secretary General, Assistant. Perhaps they have, but not general staff for sure. I mean, I don't have any diplomatic immunity. As for the response and reply, I mean, yes, I mean, it can take many weeks before they get back to you with any kind of a response, but they gonna let you know whether the response is positive or negative, whether you've been selected or not. So you're gonna receive response in any case. No, but as mentioned, because there are so many applications and so many candidates and many departments, I believe they are quite understaffed. It takes a long time. So I don't know if Christina has Inspira application and profile at Inspira, but she could also check her application status in Inspira. It should say that probably there will be. I mean, there will be said that her application is under review or under consideration, but for sure she's gonna get a response from the HR department, and hopefully it will be kind of positive and she will be hired. But it's weird that it takes 2 or 3 months. Usually it should take 2 or 3 weeks, but yeah, in some cases it takes much longer than 2 weeks.
Who is next?
Thank you so much. Another question is, will a volunteer experience be considered as a job experience for a job at the UN? The question is basically, will the UN assessment committee consider a volunteer past experience as a job experience?
Sorry. Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure that the volunteer experience is considered as a working experience, and it could be a good start. Even it's said that the volunteer kind of I mean, volunteering could be suggested at the UN full-scale UN career. This could be a really great start. Kick off of your career in the UN, and definitely it will be considered a really valuable working experience. So please do apply.
And the second question was, will the UN require an applicant to have a work permit in the US in order to be eligible to apply for a job at the UN?
So UN provides as I've already mentioned, the UN supports you when and if hired, then UN supports you in getting the working permit. I don't know, it's F something. I don't remember the name of the visa, but they help you to get this visa. Probably they are sending the kind of information to the relevant embassy, informing that the UN is going to hire a candidate, and please give him or her the visa. So this is kind of basically how this visa obtaining process looks like. But yeah, the UN helps you to obtain the visa, the working permit, or however it's called.
Fantastic. These are all the questions. No more questions.
Thank you so much. And yeah, as I mentioned, I've tried to kind of compile all the relevant links and useful information that could be found there. And one more time, please feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn, and I will try to kind of assist and give recommendations as much as I can. So thank you so much.
Giorgi, very much for this for today's discussion. I just wanted to mention that we have still like 5-10 minutes. So if anybody wants to ask anything, please write it in the chat or comment on the live, or raise your hands or unmute yourself directly. I will wait for a few seconds, and if not, then we can leave. And I would really like to extend my thanks to Giorgi for offering the follow-up help. So any of you can actually reach out to him by his LinkedIn profile and ask for more information and guidance.
Just thank you, Esma. Just to add on that, I would really encourage, apart from applying for different jobs and vacancies, I do encourage you to apply for internships. As I mentioned, they are mostly remote, and you won't have to come to either New York or any other duty station, and you can do it remotely. But it's really good to kind of to meet people, to meet people who then at a later stage could support you when you decide to apply for a job, and who could give you kind of recommendation letter. In other words, to expand your network. And also this internship will give you a good sense of how the UN works, how the day-to-day work looks like, and it's going to give you some really good skills that will be really useful in your future career. So please apply for internships. It's really useful, and it could be also kind of time consuming, this application process, but as mentioned, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will try to provide with more guidance on the process. Thank you.
Thank you once again. And from my side, I also would add that yes, networks are very, very important everywhere and anywhere. And it's not often it's not only about what you know, but it's also about who you know. So yes, and also like probably my advice and my thought would be like, do not rely only on the UN perspective, but rather apply and then go ahead with your lives, with your jobs, with your activism, and maybe within a few months or a year or so, you will get the invitation to work for the UN as well. So if there are no questions, we then can adjourn. Thank you all for attending, and thanks to Giorgi once again for dedicating your time and preparing all this presentation. Thank you, Ramis, as well, for helping facilitate the discussion, and we'll see you. So we'll have a few upcoming events in February. Please watch out